What is up, Michaela? Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. You said you just got done with practice. What
Yeah,
was what was practice today?
well, it was a rough day. Oh my gosh, today was pretty rough. We had a 10-minute tempo, some 1200s, then 400s after. I didn't feel like perfect, but it was cold. Well, okay, Baton Rouge cold. So that's like 60 degrees, but it's super cold for me. I was bundled up. But yeah, the girls did great today. We were just really excited for SECs coming up. But yeah, that was basically my morning. We've been up since like 5:30 ish because we had practice at 6:30, and we just finished about an hour ago. So it went pretty well.
That is no joke. Well, thank you for joining me today because I'm sure you're kind of exhausted
Oh
and
no,
ready to eat
I've
or
been
something.
I've been excited since the invite. So yeah, I'm good.
Oh, good. All right. Well, we'll get into it. I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everyone on this podcast. What is Michaela all about right now?
Right now, Michaela is all about living for the Lord and doing everything she can to better herself in school and health and athletics to glorify His name. That's what Michaela Rose is all about.
I think that was the best answer we've gotten on the podcast so far. I love that. I want to be what Michaela is all about. I absolutely love that. Well, Michaela, I want to talk about all those things. I want to talk about your relationship with the Lord. I want to talk about track. I want to talk about just being a student at LSU and all the things. But first, I do want to ask you because I saw a TikTok and it doesn't seem like you're the only member of the Rose family that's a track athlete. And I saw a TikTok and you guys were like racing those like speedometers that are on the road on your on feet. And I think Michael came in like the slowest at like 21 miles per hour. But then you came in the fastest, hitting like 29 miles per hour, which is wild. So I'm not going to do it justice to explain that video, but can you just tell us a little bit about the Rose family?
Oh my goodness, they are my heart. It was really fun coming back home last year, winter break. All of us were finished with our college semester, except for my younger sister. She's not in college yet, but my younger brother just started his first semester at Illinois last year. So we were just coming home for the first time, and we were like, you know what? We seen these TikToks where people race at the speedometers, and we were like, let's find one and see if we can hit the speed. To be honest, I didn't run that fast. It probably caught like a car in the background, but
I don't know. I trust you.
I'll take the credit. But yeah, that was just a fun moment with my siblings. We're like that every day. We are competitive, even as kids growing up. Like I raced my older brother, and I had my younger brother trying to come up to beat me. So yeah, we're just a competitive household. We like racing.
Yeah, is there a when you think back to childhood and competing with your siblings, is there a moment that sticks out when you guys were all at the track one summer or kind
Yeah.
of doing something similar like that TikTok?
Yeah, very much. We had a specific warm up. My dad was very tedious about warm ups, and the first thing we did was jog 2 laps. That was like what we're supposed to do, but we made it a big deal to like kind of race. So it would just be us jogging the first 600 meters of our warm up, and then like the last 200, we're just sprinting, just trying to race each other. That in strides. Our mother had us do like wind sprints, before we start the warm up, so we can be like perfect for the actual workout. And I just remember racing Mikkel a lot because he's like 2 years younger than me, but he's a guy. So it was like we ran similar times, but those moments were the best. Even though I knew I was probably going to lose to RJ, I still stepped up to the plate to race him.
I love that. And it probably made you better, right? There's a different level of
Yeah.
competitiveness that comes out when you're racing your siblings.
Yes.
I absolutely love that. So you're saying
Yeah.
your parents were running you through these workouts?
Yes. Yeah. My
Were
parents have been my coaches all my life, pretty much. I've had some assistant coaches, but they were all under my father, or my mom. So yeah.
and what has that been like?
Oh, I think it's perfect. Like when I tell people about it, a lot of people expect that it's like, oh, so they must have been hard on you. But I feel like my parents, they had it in a way where we could communicate with them very well. If something was hurting or bothering us, or we felt like we weren't hitting paces right, I could talk to my dad and be like, hey, like, today's practice was awful, and he'll give me feedback on how to change things, but they weren't hard on us. They loved us into the sport, and that's why I feel like I have so much love for it, because I don't see it as like, if I do bad I gotta grind. No, it's like, if you do bad, find out how to fix the little things so you can get better.
I love that. That is so cool and just a healthy way to train, number one. And you would think too, like when you're working so closely with family members, you can kind of you probably say things that you wouldn't normally say to someone who you don't live with and all the things. But that's and I'm sure some of it was, a little back and forth, but
Yeah.
it is really cool to hear that that was your experience and that it
Yeah.
is possible, right? Like it doesn't have to be this kind of what you see in Disney movies, right? Like, oh, making your parents seem weird when they're not kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? So
Um,
I love that. That's really cool.
that's kind of the stereotype around it. It's like, if your parents or your coaches, oof, they're hard on you. And like, yeah, like you said, sometimes they are hard on you because they see your potential and they love you towards being your best. But I feel like my parents did a great job on not making me hate track.
That's it. Well, it's hard when you do something so much and you're training to the highest level, you can almost get burnt out, right? And so
Yes.
that's why it's really important to have the right coaches, have the right people surrounding you. So that's positive talk, right? Like you don't want
Yeah.
negativity. Also, like probably doing other sports and other things helped you as well outside of that. But it's funny because when I was thinking about this question for you, I was thinking, when in my life have what is my like track memory when I think back? And I did run track growing up, definitely not the level that you were running at, but I will never forget we had just moved to Nashville, Tennessee, which is where I'm actually, where I am right now. And I had run like the 400 and I was gassed. Like I was so tired. And I was like,
Always
there's
the
no, yes, I was like, there's no, and I didn't know, but I had to do the 800 next and I had no clue. Like, I don't know why, for some reason, I didn't know that I was also running in the next event. Well, my little sister Mallory is 16 months younger than me. She was in the stands just watching, and I had to go over to my parents and be like, I'm not going to make it. Like I'm not going to make it. So we took my jersey off of me. We put it on my sister Mallory, who
oh,
wasn't even on the team. Okay. This is like kind of illegal. And we had her run the 800. Well, sweet girl, we didn't tell her. She probably just thought, oh, my big sister just ran a 400. They're just putting me in to do the same thing. Keep in mind, she's the smallest one out there. We didn't give her any information. So she sprints this 400,
oh,
beats everyone. Well, she like stops and we're all like, keep going, keep going. There was another lap to do. And so she ended up coming in like fourth or fifth, which was like really
wow.
impressive for no warm up, just, going out there cold turkey. But I just had to tell you that story because the quick turnarounds with being at meets and all the things. And,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I put my sister in this situation. So sorry, Mal.
Well, no, she's a tough cookie because she did that. Like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's a core memory for sure.
I'm trying to think if my little sister would do that for me. If I'm like, hey, man, I'm tired, I'm gassed out. She's gonna be like,
Yeah. I think we just gave Mallory very little information and we're just like,
oh,
here. So,
getting into,
she's a good sister. Yeah.
oh, props to Mallory. She's great.
Yes. Well, Michaela, I want to ask you more about being a student athlete at LSU. But before LSU, you said that your parents were your coaches. Were you homeschooled?
Yes, I was.
Yes. So what was that experience like?
Oh my gosh, I miss it so much. It's great because I feel like the program that we were on for education, it wasn't like we were trying to follow after public schooling. We just did our general math, general sciences. When I got into high school, I think my sophomore year, it's SAT prep because that was like basically you get a good SAT score, that's what you need to get into college. So it was just great because I didn't have to stand in a building for 7 hours. That's what I'm hearing people had to do. And, we were able to like take breaks, walk outside, see my siblings, eat good food from home. It's just great. And then also my father, he is the greatest math teacher ever. Cause like he never made me feel stupid whenever something was hard. Fourth grade math was the hardest for me. And I'm just thinking about all the times where I had to like go to him like, I know you gave me this 30 minutes ago. I'm still on this. He never made me feel stupid. He helped me get through it. So I'm doing well now. So it worked out. But yeah, I do miss schooling because, hard deadlines were a thing that I
Okay.
do coming into college. Because you can get away with some deadlines at home being homeschooled, but you can't get away with that now. So I guess that's the only thing that's changed.
Hmm. That is so cool to hear. And I think everyone can relate to struggling with math homework in like fourth grade. I'm not sure what, section of math that was, but that's nice to hear. I really struggled with math. Math was not my thing.
Yeah.
And so my dad would have to help me. And my dad's really good at math. But he
Oh,
definitely, what'd you say?
it's always the
It's
dads.
always the dads. Yeah, you're so right. Well, that I loved learning about that. And I think that is cool to understand. You're like, yeah, I loved it. There was one thing about the deadlines that was hard, it's good to know. But that's so cool that you had that experience with your family. And like you said, get outside, have a home cooked meal for
Yeah,
lunch. Because,
yeah.
sometimes school lunches are not that good. So,
I've heard. I mean, I wasn't trying to assume anything, but like from what I've heard, they're like lunch is terrible today, and I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
you're like, can't relate. Yeah. Well, how did you end up from homeschooling to LSU?
Yeah, so freshman year actually hit hard. It was like it kind of was my fault because I didn't know how to like set schedules up because I didn't need to really. But I assumed that it would be pretty simple. But it wasn't. So freshman year, I lost a lot of sleep. I actually was talking with my teammates about this. Like whenever freshman comes in, I'm like, hey, like make sure you set your schedule right. You want to still get sleep because we're D1 athletes. But first semester was pretty hard. But after I got the hang of it, I got up to speed with deadlines, exam dates, talking with professors, meeting with your professors, especially since like as a student athlete, we have to travel a lot. So I would be missing like I think it was Thursdays and Fridays, and that's like important lecture days. So I had to be in contact with my professors, meeting them for the things that I missed and stuff. So yeah, that was pretty much the hardest part of like homeschool to freshman year. Just that whole scheduling thing because you have your parents to kind of buffer it for you when you're homeschooled and they're your coach. But yeah, once it's just you and whatever communication you have, you got to learn to speak up for yourself.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I think freshman year is hard for a lot of people, regardless. But it is, I don't know, must have been a hard jump too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially into college. It's not like you're going, middle school to high school and then you're in high school. Like stakes are
yeah,
a little bit lower. You're going to LSU and you're
yeah,
running Division 1 track. Like that is so hard. So
yeah.
props to you because you figured it out quick though, like it takes everybody a little bit. But right before we jumped on this call, you said, "Oh yeah, I'm in cross country season right now." But I
Yeah.
know you run the 800, and I saw maybe you do 400 hurdles. So what are all the events that you do?
Okay, so my main event is the 800. I was able to compete for Team USA at the 2022 Under 20 World Championships in the 400 hurdles. And I run cross country as basically my base training, but I'm pretty good-ish. I'm pretty good-ish. But yeah, so my main event's the 800 though. That's like what I really do. And my freshman year, throughout high school I did the 400 hurdles, but I got recruited really for the 800. So my freshman year they allowed me to race it one time, the 400 hurdles. But yeah, they really want me to do the 800, so that's what I do. And right now through this season it's like just long distance based training, so when we get into track season I'm able to handle like the workload better because you want to have like a strong base for most sports too. That's like basically what they do. If you have like a spring sport, fall is like the base training. So cross country right now is really base training for me.
That's impressive, and I can imagine that you like to run fast because you are really fast. And
Yeah.
so I can not that you're not running fast in cross country, but it's a different type
Yeah.
of fast.
Yeah.
And I
It's like,
actually ran cross country in middle school, and it was like one of the best things I ever did because it prepared me so well for lacrosse season.
yeah. Yeah. Really, I know soccer players did that, but I wasn't sure if like lacrosse players did. We had like a lacrosse team for the high school that I trained at. And I was like, I would wonder, like, I wonder if they would benefit from running cross. Cause like, you know, I had seen some of the soccer players jump in and I was like, they could probably benefit from this too.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
everyone benefits from cross country in some regard because it's so hard. It's like mental toughness. But that is really hard going from, longer distance to your really fast sprinting. But I bet that when you get there to your more track season, you're like,
Yeah.
let's go. I just get to, full gas, no
Yeah.
brakes, all the
For two
things.
minutes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, for 2 minutes only. Well,
Yeah.
when you're running, and this is more of like a running, get inside Michaela's head, what are you saying to yourself? Do you have cues that you're saying? What's the self talk like?
Oh, the self-talk, it has to be all positive. Honestly, I have my mother and God to thank for this because whenever we would race, she wants us to have fun. And, you know, just to make sure it's something you still want to do. So, you know, at the line, I'm telling myself, this is what you've been training for. You're finally at the day that it's just not like reps of something, but just one rep and you're done. So go all out. I'm usually telling myself, all right, have fun and relax because some people get really tense. I tend to get tense if I'm not thinking too much about enjoying it. So typically when stuff gets hard, when I start feeling the lactic acid build up, I'm just like, this is what I live for. This is what I wanted. So yeah, just staying relaxed and enjoying the moment.
Yeah, I love that you said this is what I live for, like this is what I train for, because that is like so true. You don't do those crazy workouts. You don't do cross country for no reason. Like
Yeah,
that's exactly why. She's like, all right, this better pay off right now. Like, it's super true. I love that.
yeah. I'm
That's so
like
awesome. I
right here.
do I do want to know though, like that takes practice, right? Like
Yeah,
you don't just all of a sudden you're struggling a little bit mentally or you're getting stressed or you're nervous about your race. Not all the time where you probably like, oh, I'm good. Like I trained for this. Like I feel I'm ready to go, right? So like when were you able to really develop that sense of like almost obedience to your self-talk?
you know that's a great question. I'm trying to think about that. So I know, uh, what year was that? So my freshman year in high school, I feel like that's when I started to master it a little bit. But I remember that race. It was at New Balance Nationals. I think I got sixth overall. And I came up with 300 meters to go. And I just remember being so aware of my mental state because I feel like before that point during the race, I was just, all right, stick with them, like keep going. And then at that point, when I got to 300 meters to go, I remember like hearing my heartbeat, feeling whatever pain that was in my legs, and being able to like numb it and be like, okay, well, I'm not tired. I'm not tired. Like, this is where the race starts for me. So move up. That being so well, so clear. And, you know, I was able to have a surge like my dad had told me before the race. And, like, I think that's the first time I executed that mental state very well. But I also remember a point when I was 12 and I ran the 1500, which is kind of longer than what I'm used to. And I remember the last lap of that race, I think I was feeling a stomach ache or something, and I wanted to throw up and I wanted to stop at the side and throw up. But then I was like, girl, you're not going to quit with one lap to go. So I remember telling myself, just finish. This is what you trained for. And like, you know, I was able to push hard. And I think that was my first, no, I think that, yeah, I had won that race. I won that race. And I remember giving myself props, being like, girl, you're so mentally tough. You did that. Thank you, God. Because the last thing that you want is to give up when the race starts, like when the real racing starts. So, yeah.
Wow, that is so cool that you literally were able to like recognize that too
Yeah.
in both those times and when you were really young and then probably more recently.
Yes, yeah. But it takes time because that doesn't happen all the time. But I do see that I've built more of a tolerance. I hear my voice more clearly over the lactic acid screaming at my legs.
Yes. Well, when you were saying that and just like speaking about how you were able to have that like literal mind control, right? And that just like I'm not going to be denied. I'm not going to let this pain, this like external pain affect what my mental state is to bring me down into something that I'm trying to accomplish. you might not have a specific answer to this question, but I just wonder, like, how have you seen the mental toughness that you've built up through your sport help you in like just real life, in your everyday life, and maybe in class, in social life, in college, being away from your family, all the things. Just because I know, like, having just graduated from Boston College, there have been countless times already in my, post grad life that I've seen, oh, wow, I'm so glad I went through that hard thing
Yeah.
in college athletics because it literally helped me, pick up something at the grocery store. I don't know. Like, how has this like mental toughness just translated into your life outside of the track?
I really think it translates very well. I think athletes in general, we are taught so much to push down like certain pains so we can keep going athletically, that when things happen in life, we have a I feel like we have a better ability to push through those moments than most would without sports, because it's like you go through goes through something in life, and it can get really really hard, but I feel like it's helped me in a way where I see, okay, what is the good things about this moment? What can I get out of this that will better myself? Or what is the pros of getting past this hard moment? And what are the cons? Okay, well, the cons, they don't outweigh the pros. So I'm going to push through, and like it may be a week or two of having to struggle, but it's always worth it in the end. So I think seeing that translate from track, I translate a lot more in normal life as well. Because there was plenty of times where I was homesick. Being homeschooled, you're only around your family, and I moved like 17 hours away from Virginia, and it's like, oh my gosh, my family, I miss them. But then I'm like, okay, they're really proud of me. They want me to be here. Freshman year, it was my first year. I'm not gonna just give up and go home. Like, I'm gonna push through, because there's a reason that God put me in this school with these amazing coaches and this amazing opportunity. I'm not gonna just quit because I'm homesick, or because school's hard, or because people are hard, but I'm going to push through because I know there's pros out of this.
That's so wise of you, especially at that age, right? When you're in a hard new environment. But that all those hard practices at track like really helped you. So I think it's just so important for people just to be, number one, encouraged by, like, if you're not already playing a sport, here's advice, reason why you should play a sport. But then also just like encouragement through the hard practices, through the hard coaching, through the hard training, all of it, because it does help you outside of your sport, and your sport doesn't last forever. So that's really good, and I love
Yeah,
it.
I
You
like it.
have a ton of accomplishments, Michaela, but I want to hone in on one when you won the national championship in the 800 meter. So that must have been just so amazing. How hard was that for you to win that race?
Woo! Yeah, that year was super. I don't know what was going on that year. It was super hard. There was a lot of things mentally, spiritually, emotionally. It was just a lot. And I just knew that from my previous year, my freshman year, I did not do as good. I did not do as good as I knew I could have. And I felt like I didn't give coach my best. So I was like zoned in. I was like zoned in to train better, to gain more experience, to learn more about my event. Even though I had been running it for a long time, I just knew I wanted to learn more and to just become the best. And I knew I had that capability. So, that year when things were going super well athletically, things just happened everywhere else that it felt like it was just trying to tear me down, which honestly, looking back at it, that was probably a spiritual attack, because what was going to happen. Things were going so well for me in like practices and races, my health. I was able to like go through a season without too many serious injuries. So yeah, I really think what happened that year outside of track was like an emotional attack. So it was super, super hard. I'm not gonna get too personal, but it was just like friendships and stuff were like breaking down, and like I felt like I didn't have too many people in my corner. So by the end of the season, my circle like really honed in. I reached out to help, my best friend, my coaches, my family, and like that was the strength that I needed to like compete well at the end of the season. And like it was just a miracle the way things were that year for me. for things to turn out the way that it did at nationals, because I knew I had that capability. I just needed to be focused enough and have a clear state of mind enough to step to the line and race. So I remember calling my mom, I think at regionals when I had made nationals, and like that was the first time I made it in an individual event. And I just busted out in tears. I was like, I made it to nationals. Like I made it. Even though I knew it was something I could do, but just the mental stuff, like from the season at that time, it just really weighed heavy on me. And so those next upcoming weeks, you know, those who were my close circle made things easier for me. And like, to God be the glory, I was able to race well enough to win. And it was just a magical experience. I'm never going to forget that night. And for me, it's a testament to how God is just with you, regardless of what things may look like. But yeah, that was that.
Wow, that is so powerful. And thank you for sharing, because I think a lot of people can, kind of look at the surface level of things on social media and, just even times, and you're probably breaking records and running really fast and all the things. But you're also like, hey, I'm getting attacked on the backside of this, like nobody has any idea. And I think
Yeah.
the important part too of what you said was like, I had people, really surround me and come around me and help me get through that next part of that season, on ultimately to win. And so that's why it's just so important to
Mm,
build and care and invest, like really invest in the people who you can trust and bring you closer to the Lord and speak truth into you,
yeah.
right? Because there were probably times when you were like thinking things that were lies, right? And
Yeah.
you needed someone to pour into you. You needed your mom to tell you the truth of what the situation really was. And so I love that you said that, because it's important. And those aren't things too, like we kind of talked about, the self-talk is something that you practice, but like in order to have those relationships, you have to invest in them, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to take time to do that. So that's really cool that you said that. And I think it's really important for people to hear and learn. And I do want to ask you about the post that you put out for that national championship. You said the
Yeah.
caption was "my form of worship." And then
Yeah.
you said Psalm 66, 1-2. And could you just explain? Because I bet some people saw that and were like, girl, you're not at church. Like, they're probably like, you're on the track. What do you mean, my form of worship? So, would you mind just explaining what you meant by that caption?
Oh, so, that caption really was me basically outpouring my just everything that had happened. It's just the fact that when things go wrong, we tend to decide for ourselves, all right, we're going to like hone in on what we're supposed to do. And like, no, but I'm taught from my parents, that's when you need to go to God. That's when you need to worship Him. You need to give Him thanks, regardless of if things aren't going right. So in that in that caption, I know that a lot of people, they see the picture and be screaming, but in the video I'm saying thank you God. I'm like screaming thank you God. It's a tough photo though, like I love that photo. But in that photo I'm screaming thank you God. And that is my form of worship, because through the highs and through the lows, that season, that semester, I was always just like, God, I don't know why I'm going through this. I don't know where you're taking me, but I just know that as long as I stick with my Bible and I hear your voice, I'm going to be okay. And that was the answer I needed to finish first. After not making it the previous year before, breaking 2 minutes for the first time in my life, uh, it was just amazing. That was my form of worship.
That is so cool. And I love to hear people's like personal story behind something that they post, and the video, like you said, because I couldn't hear the sound on the video when I saw it, and even the photo. And that's just so cool that, that's a story. And I think it's important too for you to say in the high and in the low, right? I'm
Yes.
still thanking the Lord. And it's confusing because people are like, well, it's, hard
Yeah.
times are hard times. Why are you
Hard
saying
time.
thank you?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to ask you about that because that's a really special moment in your life, but there's
Yeah.
so much behind it, right? You're like,
Yeah.
you can't just, one photo just can't encapsulate the whole thing. But I love that that was your response. And yeah, just like a really special moment, and cool for you to be able to hold on to that forever.
Yes. Forever. Yeah.
Well, you've also run in big time races as well, not just in NCAAs, but you were at the Olympic trials
Yes.
and you were able to finish fourth, which is just mind blowing. Absolutely insane. So close. Absolutely insane. You're like my sister. You're like coming in on the second lap. And also like sub 2 minutes for the 800. Like I can't even wrap my head around that. So just absolutely insane. So congratulations to you for that.
Thank you.
But what was maybe different about coming into the Olympic trials and having the opportunity to compete there as opposed to NCAAs? Were you more nervous? Did it feel different? What was that like?
Oh, it did feel different. And, not in a bad way, because, like, you prepare yourself for this moment. Like, it's like, yeah, the Olympic trials are next year. Like, the previous year, I was like, the Olympic trials are next year. That's a big one, because, like, every 4 years, you have this great opportunity. So showing up there with all these athletes who I've looked up to, seeing world records being taken down by your own fellow country people, and just showing up to the same line as them. It's a surreal experience, but you have to have that competitor mentality that regardless of if I was cheering you on 2 years ago at Worlds, I want to take you down now and beat you to the line. So, it was great seeing those amazing people, and the support that I actually got from them was really great. Like, I had a lot of them come up to me because this past year I got fourth at nationals, and they were like, hey, like, it's part of the sport. Don't beat yourself up too hard. You still got next year. You still got this race. And, the support that I got from my competitors, it was amazing. So, just seeing that that's the group of women that we have to inspire the next generation, which is my generation. It was really great. It felt very comforting to know that they didn't hate me as a competitor, but they're supporting me and I can support them as well. So yeah, stepping to the line, it felt very surreal, but I was prepared. I was prepared to race and to compete to the best of my ability.
That is really cool what you said about your competitors. And a couple other people who we've had on this podcast have also said similar things, but it's not easy, right? It's like
Yeah.
really hard. And you probably even, I don't know if this was your experience, but I know when I've played sometimes and someone starts talking to me during the game or before the whistle starts and they're super friendly, like I've kind of been caught off guard. I'm like, what? Like, why are you talking to me? And like, I'm like, I try to be like a friendly person. So it's
Yeah.
like really weird that would be my reaction, but it's just because you get into this like game mode and you're like
Mhm.
so competitive. And so I bet there were sometimes you're like, whoa, a little confused by it. But how does that like, how does that affect you and then how you treat your teammates? And why do you see that as like an important and valuable thing? I know you said like it's great for the younger generation coming up, but like, why would you encourage people to kind of take that on?
Oh, well, because it's at the end of the day, it is a race. You want to be on your top game. You want to be there mentally. But we're human and we also deal with fears, anxieties, and, stress that may not be seen on the line or at the track. So, not saying that we should talk to each other at the line or in the call room, because it was completely silent there. We was all zoned in and focused. Day before, if you see someone cooling down and you're racing, hey, like, how you doing? I raced this person like five times this year. So, I want to know how they are doing from now. And injury wise, you see some athletes deal with injury and come back, tough it out and still show up to the race. Just having that camaraderie, it's really important. So we're not like anal to each other. I don't know. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like sometimes you can get some people who you're like, I'm not talking to them because they blah, blah, blah. But like, it's not all like that, at least for the mid distance side.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're right. I do feel like mid distance is more of
Yeah.
a friendly because you're like, well, this isn't a quick race. We're next to each other this whole time.
You're right. I do think the sprinters, they got a little bit more beef between each other. But yeah, that's just the sport. I'm sure they actually love each other off the track.
That's good. I'm sure they do. Well, Michaela, you do so much more than just on the track. You're a student at LSU, and that's something in itself. But your schedule is so busy, and your daughter, your sister, you're a friend. Inside all of this, hectic, crazy life that you're doing, how do you plug into your faith at college? Is there a group that you go to? Is there a church that you're plugged into? Like, what do you do to stay involved with the Lord?
Oh, that's such a great question at this moment too, because we actually had our team Bible study yesterday, and one of the questions that were brought up was like, in a world where not everybody is practicing their relationship with God or trying in a effective way to grow closer to him, how does a young student with all these distractions stay focused? And what Pastor Floyd had said, you have to lean in prayer. You have to lean in prayer because the spirit of God is living, and in that case he knows all. So he knows whether someone is good for you or not, or whether or not you should go somewhere or sit back and relax. But just God will send people, and that's a testimony that I have too, because honestly, from homeschool, being around my mother who's an elder, my father who's a deacon, I'm super close with my pastors, he calls me his granddaughter, and just being involved in my church, and then going to LSU with nobody that I know, it was just a complete change of scenery for me. So I thought I was going to be by myself. I thought I was going to be, doing this walk alone, but I literally met my best friend. She was my roommate. I had my roommates having Bible study. This is so crazy. My roommates was like, we're going to come together. We'll have Bible studies every single night before we go to sleep. And when we wake up, we're having Bible studies. And it was like, oh, okay. Like, I think I'm going to be good because this is what LSU's about. But turns out like they were the only people doing that in like my entire team. So God really had set it up so well for me. So yeah, it was just God set it up for me, because I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have their example. And then turns out my sophomore year, that's when Pastor Floyd, which is the campus pastor, he started a Bible study with the team. So we meet weekly. And then this year, one of the sophomore throwers, they started their own Bible studies as well on Tuesdays. So now we got different plugs, and I think it's really growing on campus. I'm seeing a lot of Christian student athletes stepping up on their faith and knowing that we need a plug. Like, we need connections with groups of people who are like-minded and trying to live for the Lord to meet on a weekly basis, and even daily. If I needed to reach out to somebody to pray about something, I could. It's not that I have to call home. I gotta call my mom because she's the only one I know. I have someone who's like next door to me or a phone call away or on campus that I can meet with. So yeah, that's really just a blessing, because I don't even know if that's normal. I don't know if that's
It's
normal.
not normal. It's not normal. And God definitely set that up for you. So just so cool for you to like recognize that though, because you could just totally be like, oh yeah, like it could go over your head. But you're here and you're like, absolutely not. And I think what's so cool about just you sharing this is people who are probably listening to this podcast are like, yep, Michaela Rose, man, she's dialed with God. Like she's solid in her faith. She'd be good on her own. Like God would take care of her. She would be able to do it on her own. But you're here basically saying like, thank goodness, like literally thank you God that you put these two believers in my college dorm room, right?
Yeah.
Like, and surrounded me on my team in my dorm, like literally surrounded me, because I don't know how I would have done it on my own. And
Oh,
like that's coming from you who like, man, you're just like rock solid, right? And so I think that's really powerful for you to say, because regardless of where you are in your faith and regardless of where you are, following Jesus, you still need community. Like you
yeah.
still need community, and you need to go to team Bible study, and you need to go to, your FCA, your athletes in action, whatever
Yeah.
group you have. And also invest in those, right? Don't just like, tiptoe in, like just set full send. Cause like, what's the harm, right? Like what is the harm from being encouraged? And so
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up, because I think some people will be like, oh, well, she's good. Like she's good. She doesn't need anything, right? Just based off of like how sound you are in your faith, but you do. Like everyone does.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a huge point. I try to get people to not see me as just this person who's perfect or who has it all put together. I'm still figuring things out. I'm still an imperfect person just striving to be more like Christ every single day. I have faults, I have wrongs, I have sins. But the thing that I'm just grateful for is God sees me. He sees my heart, and he sees how I'm trying to go live after him. I'm seeking his voice. I'm seeking other people who can bring me closer to him, and he's providing. He always does. Because that was those my roommates. They were two angels, literally sent by God, because I needed them.
That's so awesome. And I think also like people might hear this and be like, well, that's not my roommate. Like that might not be my situation, but you can still
Yeah,
find that, right? Like those
yeah,
people could be like literally there have been moments when I've been like, that woman who was serving me my lunch is an angel in my day and I needed her today. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you can
yeah,
find those people that God will put in your lives. They don't have to be like, oh, it's so obvious they're my roommate or they're my best friend or they're my boyfriend, they're my girlfriend, like
yeah.
whoever it is. It could literally be like someone who you might see like once a day, once a week, and they're like, that person is a God wink for me.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta stay keen to like looking around, because there's plenty of people, and you'll be surprised how many people actually could be someone that's like a big deal in your life if you just open up to them.
That's good. Well, Michaela, you have such good advice and so many good things that you're saying. I absolutely love it. I want to ask you a question about just being older at LSU now and reflecting on your time back when you were a freshman. What advice would you give yourself? If you're right now, Michaela Rose, speaking to your freshman self, what would you say to that girl?
I would say Okay, I would say not everything is going to go exactly how you planned them in your head. You have to be able to be flexible, listen to God's voice, and move when He tells you to move. Because there are going to be times where you're like, "Oh, I thought it was supposed to be blank. I thought I should have been here in this and grades and all this. I thought it should have been a smooth ride, but it's not going to be, and that's how life is." But you have to be able to be flexible, be able to reach out, be able to call for help, because you can't do it on your own. You were not fine on your own. Like I said, I really thought I was going to show up to campus and be by myself and I got to stay strong. That is not how you do things. There are people and you have to reach out to them.
Well, that is good, 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 good. And we'll have to send. I hope we could send that to the past Michaela, but she knows it all now, and I that will really help. People who are going into college, freshman year, going into freshman year of high school, but even just like jumping into a new phase of life. Like all the people my age right now are all probably leaving college or going to grad school or starting a new job or
Yeah.
whatever they're doing, starting new things. And it's important because you can have different expectations and all right, that's life. Like now what, right? Now what?
Yeah. Now what? You got to find another way. You got to keep going. Yeah.
That's so good. Well, thank you for sharing that advice. And I'm going to wrap up with a question that we ask everyone on the podcast. Before you race, do you have headphones or no headphones?
Oh, see, that's a great question. Here's why. I used to be really religious about no headphones. I gotta hear what's going on. If my dad says something to me, I have to hear it. But then, when I got into college, I was like, okay, Coach Franks, he doesn't really say much to me. Like he's just watching me. Like I feel like he would come up to my face if I needed to do something or change something. So at Texas Relays, before my team broke the meeting record, I was wearing headphones, and I just remember being so relaxed, and I was like, "Whoa, this is nice." So since then, I've been wearing headphones for warm up. So I understand if that's I don't even know. Is this a question that people are like, "Nah, you don't wear headphones"? Like you
S-
should wear headphones.
no, not like what's right or wrong, more like personal preference.
Oh, okay. My preference is wear headphones and listen to some good music. Like don't listen to no sad music. I hear some people listen to like sad music like Adele, and I'm like, are you trying to lose or you want to win, right? But yeah, headphones. I prefer.
We'll save Adele for another time. Post like a breakup or something. I feel like is not what you want to listen to pre-race. I do like Adele songs, but yeah, I probably wouldn't be listening to that and to get myself hyped up. Well, Michaela, this was so fun for me to get to meet you. Number one, hopefully I can get to watch you in person one day and meet you. But just thank you for encouraging people and sharing what you're doing at LSU on and off the track. This was so fun, and I know Pastor Floyd was the one who recommended me to you. So shout out to him because
Yeah.
man, you are a rock star, and I am
Thank
so
you. And I
excited for people to get to hear you and meet you.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. Thank you for having me.
This was so fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.